everybody. My name is Illia Nyzhnyk. I'm a Grandmaster working as Grandmaster in Residence here to add this into Louis Chess Club. And I need to work on my intro. Yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties. We are live now. Looks like everything is working as intended. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. So my today's lecture is going to be me showing you guys some positional masterpieces. These are the games that have positional squeezes happening for one of the sides. So cases where one of the sides is at some point of time unable to move anything, and it's just aesthetically pleasing. It's very hard to achieve this level of positional control in your games, but you know, some people, like some of the best people in the world, manage to achieve that, and this is why we're going to be here learning from these games. So hello, men. Hope you guys are doing well, and let's get to it. So the first game I have prepared here is it goes way back. This is a game between Tigran Petrosian and Kalashian from, I believe, 1955. It's been a hot minute, but I kind of like this game because it serves as an introduction to one of the most common concepts, specifically the opening concept of blockading your opponent's bishops, creating pawn chains against your opponent's bishops. So in the following position was white to play. The funny thing is that I've shown this position to some of my students, and very few of them actually went with the move that the Tigran Petrosian went with, and instead my students advised, I would say, what the engine considers to be the best option, which is funny how chess evolved, because I would kind of like immediately think about this this idea. By the way, the idea I'm talking about here is to play d5. This ensures that the bishop gets on a lockdown, as black's white squared bishop is currently one of black's best pieces. The move that some of my students suggested was the move bishop to d3, which is very unusual. Well, actually, no, well, not very unusual, but unusual in this concrete context, as it leaves the g2 pawn unattended, so black can just go ahead and pick it up. But this is why chess is a beautiful game, because we are able to make position sacrifices like these, right? And now, after white inevitably gets to play e4, thanks to the open g file, the bishop coming into h6, white pawn coming into e5, white's position is actually crushing now, which means that black would be making a big mistake by capturing the pawn in g2, which is not worth it in the long run. The idea of playing bishop d3 is, of course, to play e4, and therefore, if black wants to deal with that, black would need to play d5 himself, which is quite common. This position is very typical, though I don't really understand what happened to the knight. That's usually on f3, but okay, well, let's just assume that that's just, you know, some unusual development idea that was used by both sides. So this position is quite common. This structure is a very common to Queen's Gambit declined structures, and the only difference is that here the bishop didn't manage to come out to g5, so it would most likely end up going to b2, and then we have a game. But obviously, I really like this example because once again this game was played quite a while back, and I feel like this knowledge is currently used as a baseline knowledge for us when we study opening structures. I would say that this idea is very well known at this day and age, but back then it wasn't necessarily as well known, and Tigran Petrosian, I would say, was one of the first people who kind of uncovered the true potential of this plan. So after the move d5, we now know, I'm not sure about you guys, but I know that if I ever get into this kind of scenario as black, I am supposed to do something about it quickly, because if I don't, my bishop is going to end up dead. White will build their pawn chain, and my bishop is going to be very unhappy. So when I see a move like d5, I am immediately thinking about how to undermine this annoying pawn, right? The move c6 is by far the best response. As you can imagine, as some of you may imagine, black did not play c6 in the game. Once again, probably because black wasn't aware of how bad things will get if this d5 pawn will be left unattended. So after the move c6, white has a couple of options. White can obviously also take on c6, but now this sees black having a fairly easy game where black is going to take back with a d pawn. The c6 pawn is going to end up on c5, and the bishop is getting unlocked. Feeling the old squeeze, eh? Yeah, hello, Spinal Tap Chess, what's up? So taking on c6 is one way. The engine line is to play d6, but obviously after black goes c5, the original problem is no longer there, right? The black's light squared bishop is feeling quite nicely. Now the issue is different. The issue is that white has the pawn on d6, which is just wild. How did the pawn get there? As engines do, my engine immediately launched an attack on the king side, which didn't work because black just ended up playing h6, but then the engine said, oh, no worries, I'm just gonna go ahead and switch to normal development and we're gonna be okay. Who knows? I honestly couldn't tell you what's going on here. Like now black's best move was to play f5 and try to kind of seize more space in the center. White goes knight e2, e5, and I have no idea what's going on. This would be a very interesting game, but once again, this would have probably never happened because this would be a little bit of out of both players' league, you know, playing this way back in those years. So inevitably we can also look at d takes e6, which well, we've already kind of looked at this position, but black can also take back with an f pawn, which is a possibility, and it's a little bit awkward playing this way, I would say, because once again, I'm not in love with black's pawn structure here, but you know, there's some stuff happening. Black is going to be having an easier time controlling the center since black just simply has more pawns in the center, but white does have a bishop pair. As soon as this bishop comes out, who knows? Okay, so c6 was not played, so black just proceeded with normal development, and once again, not a good idea. So here white goes ahead and plays the move bishop b2. Guess what? Black's best shot is still to play, no, actually no, not here. If black plays c6 here, white goes d6, so now black has to be a little bit careful. Black ended up taking on d5, and now after the capture on d5, now c6 was still best. And have a sample line here. Once again, white doesn't really want to take on c6 because this just gives black an easy game after the pawn ends up on c5. If white plays d6, which I have here as a main line, we once again witness something crazy because black pawn does end up on c5, but at least now it can be used for, you know, as a hook for white's pawn. And yeah, this is a sample line that I wouldn't say that black is in any particular trouble here or whatnot, but the game has I know become very, very dynamic. I wasn't expecting it to, but you see, you know, as a player with white pieces, you are trying to apply some level of pressure on your opponent. You have to kind of make peace with the fact that you will have to play this way. Because if you just develop your pieces and not really attacking anything, your opponent will do the same and you'll have an even game. So when you're playing with white pieces, you do need to try and push your development advantage, for instance, you get an extra move in the beginning. So something weird, black finds himself down on exchange, but compensation leads to some crazy tactics here. I'm not quite sure what's going on once again. And yeah, at last, as the dust settles, white is still up in exchange, but you know, black has two connected pass pawns, though missing an exchange. You know, it's a pretty interesting trade-off. I'm not sure if you know, if white can win this, and it seems pretty solid on the queen side there, right? So the main problem that black would be experiencing is white rooks getting out of hand on open files. Here black is doing a great job just blockading all the open files, so maybe it's survivable. Hello, X-ray typo. What's up? Good to see you here. All right, let's go back and see black not playing c6 at all. So black goes ahead and plays d6. White goes f3, which is just a fancy way of getting to play e4 quickly. I would say that white could have also castled first. Maybe Petrosian was a bit wary of the knight e4, so this feels like black might have something a little bit of something extra going on here against the d5, right? So he was trying to kind of stop it before it happens and just played f3. White king is never going to be in danger. Once again, I'm at this point I'm just tired to say it, but c6 was still best. Black shouldn't be letting white to run them over, right? The bishop on b7 should get back into the game by playing c6. It's quite a bit worse this time though, right? Because after c6, black ends up having the isolated pawn, and that's not ideal. But you know, thanks to some counterplay, black does have counterplay against the e3 now, as white has played f3. So there's some life to this position for black. Okay, so instead of playing c6, black goes ahead and just keeps the normal development going. Rook e8 seems good enough to me, or fair enough to me, right? The semi-open e-file, why not just have the rook there? White goes ahead and castles, knight d7 and e4. Not a fan of the c6. What? What does that mean? I'm not sure. I'm confused. I have a motion sickness, aka the C sickness, but is that what is a C6? What is that? Anyway, e4. We have fantastic pawn chain here, doing an amazing job against the bishop on b7. And now once again, this is why black should never ever get it to this point, because black is incidentally playing down the bishop at this point. Goes knight e5. c6. It's a play on words. I've been had. Okay. Is a c5 type of guy, a c6. Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you guys got me there. All right. So knight e5. So you see, black is kind of trying to do something active in the center, but it's all futile. It's all pointless. Black does not have central control no more. All these guys are taking good care of the center. Black can throw little piece tantrums all they want, but it's not going to get them anywhere. So yeah, white just goes ahead and plays bishop g5, a6, I guess just trying to be safe against any potential knight b5 or bishop b5 tricks, and white goes queen d4. So white just has full control here. White gets to do whatever they want, and this is why, once again, you should not let your opponent run you over. You should deal with problems as they come in. We have resources. We know that certain problems exist. And we know that we need to deal with them as soon as possible. So, well, don't let your games go the same way as it did for Petrosian's opponent here. I think the rest is super simple. So, eventually, black makes another inaccuracy, allows white to break black's kingside pawn structure, and now with multiple weaknesses to attack, because the c7 pawn, guys, by the way, the pawn on c7 is known as backwards pawn, right? It doesn't have any protection, so we can apply a lot of pressure on the open c file, and eventually combining with this fantastic plan of knight e2, and knight is coming to h5 and begins hitting the f6. Combining those two ideas together, Petrosian just actually wins the game within next dozen of moves. So here you see him doubling the rooks on the c file. The c7 pawn falls, aka black decides to give it up for potential counterplay, but it was not enough. There is no counterplay. It's all over. Will we see knight d1, knight d3, knight d5? No, but you get to see knight d2, knight g3, knight h5. Kind of similar, you know. You prefer to ignore all your problems and hope they go away by themselves? Yeah. Well, you know, it's like there's an expression that if you end up doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result, you're a fool, right? So this is how I feel about that way of living, right? If you don't deal with the problems as they arrive, then you know, nothing ever gets solved, and so there's no progress being made. Though no progress is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes no progress is better than negative progress, but okay, we're not gonna get too philosophical about this, yeah? Example number 1. Get a problem, not deal with it, get punished. Simple enough. All right, moving on.
In the beginning,
sorry, I forgot. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. So black played bishop b4, and then white played knight g2, and then they traded on c3. Yeah. Right.
And what is this just Queen's Gambit? Like, what is the setup for black?
It's Bogo Indian, I believe. Yeah. Well, I mean, they all kind of like they can transpose into each other, I would say. Like if black ends up playing d5, that's basically them transposing into Queen's Gambit structures. When is the free will lecture starting? Free will lecture? There is no free will in these lectures, I'm sorry. Chess isn't for the selfless. You have to focus on yourself first. That's why I'm bad at chess and at life. Okay, well, if that's what it is, then I would be pretty bad at chess also, because I also don't really focus on myself. But you see, I'm getting by somehow. Extra typo. So you still have a shot. Don't give up. Motivational speaker Illia Nyzhnyk, on duty, lifting everyone's spirit in the chat. You guys never give up, never surrender. I would start singing the song, but I won't, right? We don't want to get cancelled here, do we? Okay, so, our boy Fabiano and his game back from a while ago. I'm not even sure when. It was, it doesn't show me, but Fabiano is rated 2662 in this game, and that tells me that it's probably been a good 10 years, or maybe even longer than that, maybe even 15, since this game was played. But just like in the previous example, well, not just like, I think this position is quite different, especially because black is actually coming at us, coming at us with a weapon, right? The pawn and the rook, they're like a foot soldier and a sniper in the distance. We don't like that. We need to say stop it. We need to kind of discourage them from the from the advance. When I see this, I am unhappy, and I'm pretty sure Fabiano was also unhappy with the prospect of the black pawn getting to b4, especially because it just wins black material, right? If it's black to play b4, kicks the knight out, and black ends up capturing the e4, and the game doesn't end there, but not my favorite thing. Fabi beat you when he was 12. Huh. That's nothing to be ashamed of. I've never played Fabi in a classical game. Yeah, that's unlucky. I was so close last year, but okay. All right, gotta stick to the script here. Can't just go on a tangent, because I can talk for ages about like some side stories. Need to stay on the topic. Black is trying to play b4. Guys, chat, people in the auditorium, what is there to do against b4? But before there's like a lot of b4s in my sentences. I'm just trying to see how I can arrange all the b4s in my sentences. Okay, so before you think about b4, what am I trying to say here? I'm getting myself confused. Excuse me. Let me think for a second. No. Oh yeah, there you go. Before you give me the correct answer, think about the repercussions. Repercussions. That's the word. Yeah. The correct answer. I think I've been talking about this for so long. I think you guys can probably already come up with the correct answer. I think I'm being boring enough so that even everyone's grandmoms have found the correct answer by now, and that's the move b4, right? So because black wants to play b4, white wants to play b4, everyone wants to play b4 because it stops the b4. Yeah. Yeah, well, it is what it is. There's no other way for white to stop b4 other than play b4 himself. b4 bears a certain level of risk because it introduces a dynamic sacrifice from black's side. You gotta play b4 before black plays b4, exactly, and that's why I was getting so confused, because I didn't want to say that, but I wanted to say that, and I did end up saying that, but it had as bad of an effect on the overall sentence as I thought is gonna have. Now b4 also fixates the pawn structure in black's position, right? All these guys that are marked in red, they're now fixated. But it doesn't mean that black has to live with it. Black can decide to rebel and say, no, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not gonna take this respect, and I'm gonna take things into my own hands. You liked me, but I can't watch someone with a purse. It's a handbag. What do you mean? And that's just I just like, I'm very paranoid that something's gonna happen to it, because I have like all the wallets, the keys, the car keys, and it's just, I always prefer to have it by my side. Why is that wrong? Small thinker. I don't know. Like, it's just me being paranoid. I'm sorry. Everyone has flaws. That's mine. I don't sleep with it though, I promise. Okay. Anyway, if you guys are trying to be rebellious from black side. I'm even gonna make it easier for you. I'm gonna go ahead and flip the board here. I'm gonna ask you. So your opponent just played before, and you don't like that because you wanted to play before yourself, and you start getting angry, and the anger, it's taking over, and it keeps going over the top, you know, like you just can't help it, and you want to punish your opponent for being inconsiderate of your ideas, or rather too considerate. What would you do? If the anger takes over, you play c5. Okay, that's interesting. That's a good try. That's a good try. That's a reasonable anger management technique, I would say. You guys, everyone is looking at c5. Joshua is looking at c5. Okay, so what did you guys think about this though? Like I'm kind of unsure. B takes. Were you going to like go all out and take on d4? Because if you take on c5, then this is just completely losing for black, I'm afraid. Yeah, you just lose a pawn. Your knight has to pull back, and then white ends up playing e6, and it's just all over. So I would say that if you're angry, we begin calculating like crazy, right? And here we calculated maybe after e takes d4, knight takes d4. Okay, min is cooking, all right, min is cooking something, but here, once again, this is not ideal, yeah? We need to recapture, we want to recapture, but we can't. Very unfortunate. This is a royal fork now. Well, who came up with the royal fork name? It's so cool. Yeah, just an exchange, but it's more than enough, once again. Okay, red pack, min, good, d5. It's also good and bad, right? I've been baiting you guys all along, because both c5 and d5, they're bad moves. But this is something that, as white, when we played before, we must see these responses, right? Because if one of these responses ends up being very good for black, we screwed up. Okay. So d5, I think is critical for us to see. And okay, so now show me how white deals with this anger outburst. Anybody in the chat? What should white do? So we just played d5. Our opponent is scared. We have them right where we want them, but then they fight back. And then we slowly realize that, oh wait, maybe we were wrong all along. Maybe we exaggerated. Maybe we weren't as angry after all. That's Janie Cobb Bracken. That's a lot of. I assume all those are captures. Those X's in the chat, those are all captures. Knight takes, bishop takes. Wait. So takes. Okay, first of all, currently there's 2 possible pawn captures available. Which one are you? And even then, I still don't see. Okay, so I think I understand. I think maybe this pawn takes. If I'm deciphering this correctly, I think this is probably what this is. Knight takes, bishop takes. Maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're gonna get there in a moment. I think yes, and then the same exact sequence of. This feels like you're giving me a bunch of derivatives to solve. Like I'm not a math guy after all, I'm sorry, but yeah, well, I don't think this works very well for white, because in the end of the day, black ends up winning the missing pawn back on b4, and then the next move is going to be something like knight f6. I don't really see why black would be like much worse here. Black is probably still worse because white has got kind of like nice pieces here, but it's not critical. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it could be worse. It can always be worse, as my roommate said. It can always be worse, Ilya, so don't worry. And so it will be worse if I think it was going to be worse if white takes here. dy over dx, yes, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Yep. Yeah, so the taking with a pawn on d5 is not the way. The way would be to take on b4. I think this is the most challenging, and this in this line, white would have to be a little bit careful. White has two good options right now. After we take on b4, we are inviting white to do two things, or either one of the two. We invite white to either take on e5 and then go into some position where white is going to be down material, but like having strong pair of bishops. You know, I'm kind of all for it, but I think that if I were to play white, I would much rather stay safe. So I would much rather make a move like bishop d2, and after this trade, it's going to be a long trade. It's going to be a long sequence of trades, and in this position right now, I would be happy if I was white. I would be happy for a couple of reasons. First, black bishop is no thank you, right? Black bishop is stuck on b7. It doesn't do anything. White has a fantastic outpost on d5. b5 is hanging. Bishop on d6 is a nuisance. White has a very simple plan of like pushing the pawns on the king side. White can bring the rooks over. White can queen c4. White can checkmate. There's like a lot of things going badly for black here, with no reasonable visible benefit. And this is what we have to see. We have to see the possibility of playing d5. We have to see the possibility of making the game dynamic. If we are getting positionally squeezed, we have to be prepared to let all hell loose, okay? Because we want to be able to move. If we don't move our pieces, if our pieces can't move, we lose with time, yeah? Our opponent is going to keep pressuring us until our pieces suffocate. There's no chance in hell you could visualize it this before d5. Well, this is what it takes to understand. This is not even a calculation issue. This is just a positional thinking issue, right? So if you are trying to utilize a positional squeeze technique, you need to be aware that one way of dealing with it is making the position more dynamic. So that's what your opponent is going to try to do, okay? Your opponent is going to try to muddy the water. They're not just going to sit there and wait for you to kill off their pieces one by one. You know, they wanna move. The pieces wanna move. Luckily, b4 works, and who knows? I think Fabiano is just that great of a guy, that great of a player, that he saw all of it. Let's just give him benefit of the doubt and believe that he saw all of this. He might have. Depends on how much time he had left at this point, but this was move number 13, so I assume he probably had quite a bit of time left at this point. Are we looking for advantage for black here or white? We are looking at this game originally from white's side. This was an exercise for you guys. Whenever you're getting positionally squeezed, you need to see possibilities like these. And whenever you perform a positional squeeze, you need to be aware that your opponent may decide to just run you down like that. So you need to be aware of the possibilities like c5 and d5. And just to make it easier for you guys to consider those, I flipped the board to show you what it would look like from black's side. g4 is an amazing move. No, it's a b. First of all, it's b4. And second of all, yes, it's pretty good. But once again, we need to be mindful of our opponent's potential counterplay. Most likely Fabi did see all of this. I also think so. Yeah. Okay, so his opponent decided that, okay, nothing works. Let me just get the rest of my pieces out. Another fantastic move, bishop b3. Doesn't seem like it's doing a whole lot, but open file now, yeah? Now the rook is happy. Black went knight to b6 and queen d3. Another one of those positional squeeze moments, right? Black knight was really looking forward to getting to c4. You think c5 works here? After bishop b3? Well, let's take a look then, shall we? Let's see c5. I want to say that you're probably right, but for some reason c5 didn't happen. So there must be a reason why. I am a strong believer in reason, and I do think that most things in the world happen for a reason, and so was this c5 not being played. I'm kind of struggling. I'm almost stepping over the edge in terms of trying to cheat and use the engine analysis. But I'm better than that. I'm gonna not do it. I'm gonna try to come up with the explanation myself. I for some reason failed to analyze the move c5, which is weird because we just looked at c5 and d5, and you know, things change, right? Queen c7 was a helpful addition. No, after b4. No, after b4 it doesn't work. So yeah, so after b4 we have established that c5 does not work because of this capture. Now if black takes with a d pawn, white wins the e5. And if black takes on d4, white will take back with a knight, and then white threatens the fork, right? And this is why the c5 doesn't work in the beginning, but after queen c7 it does. We are very strong. We understand that d5 doesn't work and we resign. No, okay. I mean, we don't resign. We keep going. Like the option of resigning is always available to you, right? But what's the point of playing a game of chess if you overuse the resigning option? It's not fun. The game ends if you resign. Why don't you just keep it going? Unless, like, if you're playing someone like Fabian, you're down like a queen, then I guess so. But until then, all right, I'm gonna succumb. c5. What's wrong with c5? Show me. Oh, engine sama. Takes. So this is what I thought. Takes. Queen d2. Tomasz, we don't do that here. This is a family-friendly stream. We don't do those things. We have bishop f4. Right? Bishop f4 doesn't seem like a big deal because it's just a singular attack or singular threat. But somehow this is strong enough to force black into submission. Knight h5, that's not the kind of move I would expect anyone to make. Well, yes, it helps against bishop f4, but oh boy. Okay, we just keep rolling. f4, queen c7, knight d5, and we just roll over black. Queen d5. And now we win material, it seems. Once again, a little bit disappointed with myself for not noticing the c5. It makes sense, right? Black has seen some improvement, right? Black has put the queen on c7, and so I should be checking both c5 and d5 again, but sometimes you get careless, and that's exactly how I got careless, even though it still doesn't work, but should have definitely been checked by me. White has a nice position after f4. Yes, it indeed is nice, and that's what I would go for. That would be my first impression after c5. But you know, it's tough to evaluate some positions. So knight b6 was played, queen d3, right? So takes away a very important knight jump. But black says no, I insist. Goes bishop e6. So obviously, what black is looking for is black is looking to trade the light squared bishops, and that in turn is going to ensure the availability of the c4 for the black knight. Fabiano says, okay, why not? Goes ahead, trades the bishops, and now this guy is in trouble. So knight g5 comes in. Right now, black has two reasonable ways to defend the e6 pawn. Psychologically speaking, playing the move queen to d7, I believe, would be more difficult because you would have to make peace with the fact that you're going to be playing down a pawn, which, by the way, white shouldn't take. So this, if white goes for the extra pawn in this line, There you go, white wins the pawn, and this is why, just from a psychological standpoint, it's hard for black to go in here, because this is an endgame where black is down a pawn. But luckily for black, they have quite a bit of counterplay here, and also the b4 is hanging, so it looks like black is actually going to just win the pawn right back. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. It does look scary. It looks like white is about to attack, but black always has g6, and, you know, probably black is okay. Will the video still be up after the live ends? I'm not sure. It depends on ban and
Absolutely on YouTube, as always.
Oh my god, you see, all of these videos are going to be available on YouTube after the end. There you go. Well, if you're not able to stick around till the very end, thanks for stopping by for however long you were able to spend with us, and yeah, the video will be available. So after queen d7, the best shot for white would be to play d5, which is an interesting move, but d5 is played to ensure that we have access to light squares, right? So now, as black has a pretty badly placed bishop on e7, our job will be to expose as many light squares as we can, and in this case, we're gonna start with one. We're gonna start nice and slow. We're gonna get our knight to e6, and we're gonna be happy. So the only issue is that if we go knight e6 here, we may end up running into a problem, and that is that d5 is about to fall, and with falling of the d5 pawn, the knight on e6 is kind of nowhere, and it's in between of, you know, multiple attackers. So we don't want that, and apparently this is why we go knight g4. It's funny how I backtrack immediately. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna get our knight to e6, life is good, and not quite. No, we're not gonna do that just yet. But it's okay, because in the end of the day, we do have full control over the light squares. We have both our queen and our knight placed on outposts, and that's fantastic news. We have a total domination of the knight over the bishop, right? The black's dark squared bishop is purely defensive nature, being blocked in by its own pawns. White knight, fantastic piece, outpost, attacks the d6, can easily be transferred to wherever it needs to go, right? Great. Okay, so this is why, I mean, not this is why, but black did not end up finding the queen d7 and played queen c8, which opened up an additional possibility for Fabiano, who immediately seized it and went ahead and played rook a7, putting the rook on one of the best squares available, which is a7, the 7th rank. The rook is now a nuisance. Rook b7 drops the pawn, right? We just take and take on e6. It's not easy to deal with rook on a7, so black, understandably so, just goes ahead and defends the bishop with rook e8, and now here comes, I would say, the critical moment of the game, because black's plans have not changed. Right? Black's plan is still to play knight c4, and with the knight being as strong as it's going to be on c4, it's going to, you know, it will still be fine, but you know, I would be unhappy just letting the knight get to c4, and no, it's a best square for the black knight. It's an outpost. I can't deal with that knight, you know, so would much rather not let it happen. And just so happens that we can. We've seen this move before. It's a move d5. Forces the trade right now. Obviously, knight c4 drops the e6 pawn, so black doesn't want to do that. d4 is the move here. You probably mean d5. Black's position is hard to play. Yeah, black is getting pushed back, and after d5, yeah, black loses their leverage. Black loses the knight that was so eager to come to c4, and now it's gone. And all that's left is a sad looking light squares in black's king side structure. I want to show you guys kind of relatively quickly how this game comes to an end. Fabiano could have been a little bit more precise, I would say. So knight e4 was good, but then at this point, instead of rook d1, the nice solution would be to just go ahead and take this knight, trade the knights away, and then go ahead. The move queen f3 is quite funny, because I think we want to play queen f5, queen e6. That's like one of the stronger plans we have. But if you go for queen f5, black has queen c8. So what we do first is we go queen f3, we force the black rook onto c8, and then we go queen f5, because now black does not have the queen c8 defense. It's I would say it's unnecessarily fancy. What Fabiano did is more than suffices to win the game, right? He just did the simplest thing, right? He played rook d1. Why did he play rook d1? Well, because he just says, oh, I'll eventually take on c6, or black will eventually take on d5. That file is going to open up. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the d6 pawn here, and that's exactly what happened. So here you see a bunch of trades happening, and Fabiano does end up winning the pawn in d6. He had to be a little bit precise because the game ends up in a rook endgame. And as we all know, rook endgames can sometimes be tricky to borderline impossible to win. But Fabiano is Fabiano. He's just too good, man. I can't. He's just so good. Finds a very nice rook maneuver. I want to point this out. He goes rook c5 and rook c4, places the rook on the side of his pass pawn. It is essential for us to do this because if we don't, I want to point out that if we remove these two pawns from the equation, if the e4 pawn and the f2 pawn are now gone, it becomes a theoretical draw. So not only is white trying to reposition the rook, but also white is trying to not allow the trade to happen. So black is searching for ways to trade these pawns by force, and this is why just hitting the pawn immediately is so important. And the funny thing is that black does end up trading the pawns, but it is too late. Why? Because our king gets way too active. King gets active. It no longer matters what black does. Our king ends up exactly where it needs to be, and the reason why it's able to end up where it needs to be is because the rook was on the side. If the rook was in front of the pawn, our king would keep getting checked. Nothing would have happened. But because our rook is on the side, now we just have a straightforward pawn push, and there you go. And Fabiano, with a nice finisher, ends this game. This Fabi guy seems decent. Oh, hello, Devin. Yeah, he's pretty decent. Yeah, pretty good guy too. You know. Saludo desde New Mexico. I can't read Spanish, but I suppose it's like hello from New Mexico or something. Well, yeah, right back at you, if that's what it is. But saludo, I suppose, is hello. What black openings do I recommend? Simple ones. The ones that you don't have to work on with an engine and suffer and struggle and be miserable. Well, in all seriousness, you need to be more. You need to ask me a much more precise question. So, black opening against what first move? What style of play do you have? Are you more of an attacking person? Are you more of a positional player? A lot of different considerations would go into this question. But partly it is part of my joke that I just tried making and probably failed. That try to play something that doesn't require you to go into the computer chess too much, especially in the beginning. Like unless you're like an international master. I don't know what your strengths is, but usually title players usually don't ask me for opening suggestions. I'm not sure why. But yeah, at first, if you're just starting out, play something simple, something where you can comfortably get your pieces out and you understand why they go to those squares, and then you can have a good game, where you understand what's going on. Intermediate, trying to become a club player, attacking person. Moving to St. Louis for school next year, that's nice. Chessable courses. Chessable courses are mostly engine analysis. Well, I mean, sorry, I almost tripped and fell from the chair, my bad. You obviously get some feedback from the people who make these courses, but it's mostly, I would say, the vast majority of cases, it's just people just doing a lot of work with an engine. If you want to outsource this work to someone else, then I guess Chessable course would do. But I would advise against it. I would say at first, on that level, people would not be playing the lines discussed in the Chessable courses. My guess is that you would win most of your games outside of the opening phase. And I say it to most people. I think people overestimate how many games end in the opening phase. It's unlikely that you will outright win the game. Even if you do find like some heavy-hitting opening idea that is going to allow you to win a couple of games, it will quickly end because you will eventually play somebody who doesn't fall for the trap or for the trick. And then if somebody doesn't fall for the trick, you need to know what to do. And so this is what I would suggest you do. Focus on the knowing what to do part. What do I think about the London system? Dai, you like it? I'm pretty sure you mistyped there something. Did I like it? The London system was cool. Yeah, it's fairly solid. Has some sharp ideas every now and then. Hard to beat. You know, if you're playing against the London system, you like pull your hair and scream in agony because you can't do anything most of the time. But it's also boring because, you know, it's very straightforward and unsophisticated, I would say. You kind of just have like select few ideas and you just do it, and if one doesn't work, you just do the other, and that's it. You just memorize it and you just go. Can you make your personalized chessable course by 5 p.m. tomorrow? Thanks. Yes, you got it. $1 million, and you got it. Actually, I don't think I can do it. What, 5 p.m.? I got work. I'm on the clock. I don't think I have time to do it, even for $1 million. Oh my god. I feel like I lose a lot of games on time, even in FIDE tournaments. You lose games in FIDE tournaments, as in classical. But how? You got. What time controls do you play? If you play classical games with 30-second increment, I don't think you should be losing. It means that your time management really is really out of the league. Okay, what is it? Copy pasta. Love Kumar. What is that? It must be just some copy paste nonsense. Skyrim. I have never even played Skyrim before. Anyway, let's take a look at one more game, guys, shall we? I think we have just enough time. Maybe if I speed up, if I stop talking. If I stop talking, we might just have a little bit of time to go through through one more. And I believe that this one we should be looking at from black side. And guess what? It's our boy Magnus. Our boy Magnus. I would say that this is one of the I was recommended this game, and I've seen it myself. It just didn't pop up in my brain that this game might be a good fit for the topic, but it is. It's a perfect fit. Magnus against Grandmaster Vladimir Fedoseev. Magnus, having black pieces here, had just played the move f4, which is a great move. It seems like a blunder because he just hangs the pawn, but this is what most positional sacrifices look like. You're just like, oh, why in the world would you just give up that pawn or that knight, and then 10 moves into the future, it's like, oh, I see why. This is why. Luckily for Magnus, his opponent doesn't really have much of a choice. He can either take the pawn or refuse the pawn and move away. Moving away is not a good idea, I think, because what this did is this secured the knight's outpost on e5. This knight is just a nuisance at this point. If white decides to ever get rid of it by capturing, now this bishop is a nuisance. Like, there's no way for white to deal with any piece that comes to the e5 square, the dreaded e5 outpost. It's just, I don't know, if I see a bishop or a knight that's on e5 and you can't deal with it, I'm like, yeah, black is probably at least much better, if not winning outright positionally. So needless to say, Vladimir Fedoseev was like, yeah, no, I'm not dealing with that. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the pawn, you know, to hell with it. And the good thing is that there's now quite a bit of counterplay on the f file happening here. So Magnus is actually not in a hurry. He plays bishop d7, decides to get the rest of his pieces out into the game. Similar reasoning, Fedoseev did not take on e5 because once again black ends up taking back with a bishop. Playing a4 is just out of question, right? The f file is taken care of. Bishop and rook are a fantastic team, as they are oftentimes. And also moving the bishop away is not an option, right? Because then black goes ahead and picks up the missing pawn back. So Vladimir Fedoseev goes ahead and plays knight d1. Knight d1 is there, what was played to bring in the rook into the defense, so that white's dark squared bishop can finally move somewhere. I would say probably to g5 actually. This is the plan, right? So white wants to play bishop g5 followed by f4, and white wants to start using their material advantage. Material advantage, extra pawn on f3, right? How do we use it? We push it. All right, we push it down. Here comes another squadouche. Rook takes f4. Queen takes f4, another positional sacrifice. Now black is down what? An exchange and the pawn, but worry not. Bishop h6 forces white queen into a side of the board that it really doesn't like, the queen doesn't want to be there. Like, why would the queen ever be on this side of the board? It's not where it belongs. It wants to be somewhere in the center, somewhere on the queen side, because it can hit stuff on the queen side. On the king side, it can't really hit anything. Why? Our good old friend knight on e5. Aha. Queen f8, knight e3, and now bishop f4. Further putting another nail into the queen's coffin. Just like keep going as far back as possible. So queen g2. At this point, the queen is completely stuck, right? It can like move around in this little triangle here, but that's about it. Magnus goes to rook c8. He says, yeah, that's enough. That's good enough for me. Like now you're playing without the queen pretty much. So let me just go ahead and use my newly acquired queen advantage and checkmate you. So goes rook c8. Want to point out that castling is really bad idea. It feels like, oh, maybe if white castles and then white like moves the rook out of the way, the queen can finally come out through this little tiny little hole. But no, it's immediately over because queen f6, and without white having traded, oh, it's just too many different tenses in one sentence. With white not having traded rooks yet, black's next move is going to be rook g8 followed by g5, and that just rips white's position apart. If black has an access to a single rook, then attack on the g file immediately becomes successful. There's nothing white can do to stop that. This is why white had to play rook c3 first, trading the rooks first, and now, well, obviously the c3 is hanging, so I assume we're gonna see c4 here. Yeah, there you go. We are seeing the move c4, b5. So you see, whenever you guys are going for positional sacrifices, you need to have an attack with each move, because if you don't play the move b5, then once again we already know what white is going to do. White is going to castle, white is going to move the rook out of the way, and the queen is going to come in. We are behind in material, right? As black, we are behind. If we allow our opponent to untangle, they will naturally beat us, right? They have better pieces, right? If their pieces are as good as ours right now, we lose. We lose because our pieces are naturally worse. Okay, so b5 takes, queen g1. So why not castle? Can anybody tell me why castle didn't happen in this case? Well, it's not really trapping the queen, right? This is a move you were talking about. Yeah, it just wins the exchange back, not biggie. But yeah, look at the queen. Look at it. Look at it. What is that piece? Yeah, bishop h3. Bravo, Joshua. Right. What do you think about the Bottas gambit? Is it the best? Is it best? I guess you're asking if it's better than Branco? Banco maybe? Branco gambit does not exist unless maybe it does. Maybe I just don't know. I don't really know most of the opening names, but I suppose you meant Banco. Banco is just sacrificing a pawn. Bottas sacrificing a queen and losing the game as a result. It's not ideal in some universes. Maybe in this one it is. For content creation purposes, you want to play that, I guess. But yeah, there we go. Castling out of the question. White loses the extra stuff back, and so what is there even to talk about? So Fedoseev goes ahead and plays queen g1. We should have it as a double question move, a double question mark move. It's not very nice, but let's see why. So Magnus goes ahead and plays queen a8. The queen infiltrates, right? Ready to go in. Queen a2, knight g2, queen a1. So at this point, you may think, okay, if you're checking the white king, it shouldn't really matter. Like, why would it ever matter which way we do it from, right? Either b1 or a1 is just all one thing. But no, surprisingly, one of them wins and the other one doesn't. That's crazy, okay? So let me show you why. Queen b1 would win on the spot. White has only response, knight e1. That's just the only move white can make to block the check. And now black holds b5. What is my opinion on the red defense? It is... What is a red defense? It's like a hippo, but not exactly. Ben, what is red defense? Like I heard somebody explain it to me at some point, but I forgot. Nobody puts the queen in the corner, but apparently sometimes you're forced to, So okay, so back to reality. b5. c takes b5, bishop b5, bishop b5, knight f3, boom. Bingo. This, by the way, wins the queen. Guess what? The queen has only one square it can go to and not get captured, but that's not good enough. And if white decides to positionally sacrifice the queen, because our queen is on b1 now, we can take this bishop here. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference. Because if our queen is on a1, just like it would have been in the game, b5 is no longer a winning idea. As here, white can perform the CPR in face of giving up the queen, and suddenly it becomes possible to hold. Well, arguably so against Magnus, but on paper, you know, you can maybe try to hold this as white. It's not as winning anymore. So queen a1 doesn't win, but now after queen b2, this is the most critical spot where Fedoseev had a realistic chance to survive. You know, when you're being attacked and your opponent's pieces are like coming at you with all their force, you would much rather have them gone from the board, right? So this is why the move knight d3 is going to attempt to do exactly that, just trading, just offering an even trade of knights. Checking on b1 doesn't amount to anything because king g2, and now white is threatening with a lot of captures. Black might just be in trouble here. And obviously if black takes, now surprisingly, white is in a complete zugzwang here, but surprisingly, shockingly, this only move that white has not to lose anything else, and that's actually the move that puts the rook in danger, this move is enough for white to survive. These two moves, these two rook moves are enough, and black does not have any additional pieces to join into the attack because we just traded one of the main hitters, the knight. d4, d6, c4, e5 is a rat. Oh, okay, yeah, that's okay. No, that's fine. That's like it's gonna transpose into a Philidor, I think, yeah. So anyway, Fedoseev wastes his chance, and unfortunately, he's not gonna get a second one. Eventually, he panics and gives up the whole set somewhere here. He gives up the rook and actually just decides to check himself out because nothing still moves. He gave up his only material advantage and he still can't move, so that didn't help. And he decides that he's had enough of being unable to move and gives up. 1 square makes such a difference. Yeah, chess is a wonderful game, yeah? Well, with that being said, guys, I thank you all for joining me here today, and looking through these examples on positional squeezes. I hope you guys enjoyed the lecture, and I will see you guys in the future streams, which I'm sure there'll be plenty. Yeah, tomorrow and on Thursday. So tomorrow 1:30 p.m. Central Time, guys. Be there or be triangle. I'll see you. I'm so cringe. Anyway. Anyway, take care, guys. Peace.